welcome back. If you're new to my channel or just not yet subscribed, my name is Brittany. Definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button. I post numerous videos a week. If you like spooky, creepy stuff in general, as mythological things, then you are in the right place. And before we get started, I do want to remind you guys about the giveaway. So this giveaway will include things from brands like Casely and Truleen, along with a few other things as well. It'll be a little mystery box that you get completely for free. And all you have to do to enter is like this video, hit that subscribe button, make sure the bell's on, and go into the comments down below and say what your favorite mythological creature is. And then it will be completely at random who gets picked, and it will be announced the first week of April. You only have until April 1st, you guys, to enter this. So I'd go and do that now while you're thinking of it, and then come back and finish this video. So I did have to get my hair cut. Not like too much, just when it's a little bit healthier because, you know, we all love healthy hair. And I ended up burning it in a candle. So I lit my hair on fire. Literally lit my hair on fire. Yeah, not good. But it didn't do too much damage. So I didn't really lose that much length, which is good just because I want it long for the wedding. But yeah, that's how I did that is a whole nother story and what's going on with everything with our squatter situation and stuff is just insane and a lot, and we're finding out a lot. So yeah, I'll update you guys on all of that at a later date. But today we're going to be talking about what's supposed to be a true story. And obviously I don't know those people, so I can't 100% say that it's true, but it says it's a true story, so maybe. And this is from a forensic psychologist. So in this video, we're going to be doing part 1, and then I'll make another video, and that'll be part 2, because there's 2 parts to this. So let's just get into it. Don't get too close to the patient. Don't accept anything he might try to give you. And absolutely do not hand him anything, not even a piece of paper, the guard said as he escorted me towards the holding cell. He handed me an emergency device. With a single press of a button, the entire staff within the facility would be alerted and come rushing to my aid. I'm well aware of the rules, Adam. We've gone through this dance quite a few times now, I shot back with a smirk. You know the boss, due diligence and all. If you get murdered, or at the least the judge can't say we didn't warn you. He tried to joke, but I could tell something was keeping him on edge. It was a strange sight to see Adam so nervous. He'd been working at the forensic psychiatry department for the better part of 3 decades, dealing with all sorts of dangerous individuals. On any other day, his hardened exterior and undying confidence would make anyone feel safe in his presence. But something about the current patient unnerved the man, a fact that intrigued me more than anything written in the file I'd been given. Speaking of your boss, why isn't Martin here to brief me himself? I don't even know the patient's name. The file just reads 39, I asked. Well, he doesn't exactly know that you're here, Adam explained, his weak smile fading. Excuse me? I asked, knowing how the breach of protocol would piss Martin off beyond belief. While Adam had some seniority working as a guard for the better part of 30 years, he still answered to someone, and Martin was the only one in the clinic with more years under his belt. There's something different about this one. I needed someone with your experience to have a look at him, to see if I'm right about him, or just going crazy. Care to explain? I asked, my curiosity piqued. I couldn't even if I wanted to. Just talk to him, will ya? As a personal favor to me. I'll buy you a beer later, he begged. The facility resembled a prison, more than a psychiatric department, with cells lining the hall, each of them empty. People had clearly lived in them fairly recently, seemingly evacuated for reasons I could only guess at. It was an odd sight considering most patients were too dangerous to let out, which meant they spent the majority of their days inside. Where is everyone? I finally asked. We moved them. Adam said coldly. It was the only way to keep them safe. Safe from what? I don't know. Ever since we admitted the new patient, people have been acting weird. Well, weirder than before. They were afraid, but none of them were in any condition to explain what exactly had them panicking. The hallway was filled with starkly contrasting shadows cast by the setting sun. The last minutes of the day would soon give way to the darkness of night, which meant a late night for me and a cold dinner waiting at home. If patient 39 is so dangerous, why keep him here? I asked. That's the thing. The man has been nothing but cooperative since we admitted him. There's no evidence linking him to the strangeness of this ward. But whenever I get too close to his room, I feel the hairs on my back. It's like every fiber of my being is telling me to run and hide. But I can't figure out why. He trailed off. Talking about himself wasn't one of his strong suits, so I decided not to push the matter any further. Instead, I tried to change the subject. Why was he brought here anyway? He got arrested during a drug bust. Small scale, nothing to write home about. But I guess you play the cards you're dealt. They found the man in a corner, just crying and apologizing. He kept saying he was sorry, but couldn't for the life of him tell us what he was sorry about, and claimed some entity is following him around, one he himself was forced to summon. So it's a drug-induced psychotic episode, I stated as I kept pushing for answers. That was our theory too, but what? He was arrested alongside 3 other culprits. They were left in a room together as they were processed. In the span of 5 minutes, all except him had died. He killed them? I asked. Their throats were slit, clean and deep, he trailed off. But there wasn't a knife in the room, nor anything that could be branded as a weapon. By all means, it looked like he did it with his bare hands, which is impossible considering he didn't have a drop of blood on him. Still, he claims he's responsible for their deaths. By then, we'd reached the end of the department. A place that had once housed 20 inmates was now down to a single prisoner, a man that would soon be my next patient. So you don't think he's mentally ill? I asked as we reached the door to his room. Unlike the rest of the rooms, there were no windows or bars to look through, only a solid door to keep the most dangerous patients separated from the rest of the pack. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? I asked. In the 3-day span since his admittance, 7 of our patients have tried to kill themselves. 3 more succeeded. The rest were deadly afraid of our new guest, but none could give a reason beyond, I see it now, Adam explained. We stood before a solid metal door that led into an interrogation area. Within the room, the inmate would be safely locked away behind bars, giving me ample space to interview him and determine whether or not his behavior was due to a mental illness or not. All right, Leon, you ready? He asked as he fumbled with his keys. You're staying here? I asked back. I ain't setting foot inside unless I have to. The others already prepped him. You have the emergency alarm device should anything happen. I'll be right here, ready to help. He opened the door and gestured for me to step inside. He shut the door and locked it behind... Ow, I bit my tongue. Locked it behind me. I was left alone in a dim room. Alone with a potential, dangerous, criminally insane individual. That fact alone didn't bother me. Throughout my career, I've dealt with thousands of patients. Some that even tried to strangle and stab me, but the fear I'd sensed in Adam worried me. Are you him? A timid voice from the other side of the bars. A weird sense of unease washed over me as I was faced with patient 39. He is basically just a kid, early 20s, skinny. He didn't strike me as a drug user. In fact, apart from the heavy bags under his eyes and pale skin, he seemed perfectly normal. Not someone who would expect to be responsible for almost a dozen deaths. However, appearances can be deceiving. I'm Dr. Dietrich. I'm here to evaluate you. What's your name? I asked. They sent a shrink? He asked, ignoring my question. A psychiatrist, I explained. You can't help me. I'm already dead, he said, still not looking at me. Why don't you tell me your side of the story? I asked. He turned to me for a second, staring right past me. His eyes widened in fear as if he saw something horrific right behind me. I felt a shiver running down my spine and moist breath flowing onto my neck in irregular waves. For a single moment, I felt the presence of something standing right behind me. "No, please don't," he begged. As quickly as its presence had made itself known, an uneasy emptiness filled the room once more. I tried to deny the urge to look behind me, moving on with my questions. "Don't what?" I asked. "I wasn't talking to you," he said. His stare at the wall behind me felt all too convincing, but I had to stay strong. I had to show the man that I didn't share the fear that he was experiencing, even if it was nothing but a lie. "I didn't mean to do it," he sobbed, "but they made me." "Who made you do what?" I asked. "They forced me to summon him. He needed a vessel," he said in a weak whisper. "Now he won't leave. The cards. They made me pick." My heart started to race and my hands trembled as I tried to jot down some notes. I was panicking, but the fear I felt wasn't brought on by any obvious display of danger. "The men that died, what happened to them?" I asked. "He needed to feed," he said on the brink of tears. "I still feel their pain inside me. I still hear them scream." "Who is it?" "He doesn't like when I name him. He'll be mad." "He would punish you?" I asked. "No, he'd get mad at you. I can't let him. I can't." "But being mad at me would still beat him being mad at you. I just want to understand what you're going through," I argued. He shot me a peculiar look, as if contemplating whether or not I believed him. I hadn't straight up told him he was suffering a psychotic break. I knew he'd shut down as soon as I showed doubt, so I decided to play along until I understood what was running through his mind. "You should kill me. It's the only way to stop him," he said. "I tried to do it myself, but he won't let me." I had my diagnosis and should have ended the interview there. I had had prescribed some medications and gone on my way, but I was as interested as I was scared. Something deep within me had awoken, a morbid sense of curiosity that kept me pushing on beyond what was diagnostically necessary. "Your death wouldn't help anyone," I said. "You need help, but if I'm going to help you, I need to know exactly what's going on." He looked up at me with defeat in his eyes. At that moment, he no longer seemed scared or worried about his own fate. He just appeared apologetic. "My family said I would be the perfect vessel for Draugr," he said without breaking eye contact. "Draugr?" I asked. But the name put life to a vague memory I had of childhood stories. While the being wasn't completely unknown to me, I had no solid knowledge about it. The patient looked back down, almost seeming ashamed that he had uttered the name. But something else seemed to wash over him, a sense of relief that the name was no longer trapped within him. No sooner had he uttered those words, had he been freed from his curse. I no longer saw a patient suffering a psychotic break before me. I just saw a man on the brink of exhaustion. "I'm sorry," he mumbled. "You didn't deserve this." "Didn't deserve what?" I asked. He refused to respond. He just sat there catching his breath, as if an immense load had just been taken off his shoulders. He lay himself down on the ground, too tired to keep the conversation going. "Are you okay? Hey!" But the session had ended. The man was about to pass out from the ordeal. Despite my gut telling me something was wrong with the man besides his mental health, I jotted down some notes, including a psychiatric diagnosis. Despite the pain that he had caused, he had my sympathy. It couldn't be easy to live in a world that no one else believed in. "I guess I'll see you next week," I mumbled under my breath as I shot the man one last look of pity. I was jolted back to attention by someone hammering on the door from the outside begging to be let in. 9 rapid consecutive knocks before the room, once again, fell to an uncomfortable silence. "Adam, what's going on?" I asked. No response. "Adam," I called. "I told you bad things would happen," I heard the patient whispered from his cell. He seemed half asleep, barely aware of what was going on. I ignored him and started hammering back, begging to be let out. The door is locked, but if anyone was still guarding it outside, they'd surely let me out. I pulled out my personal security device, knowing a dozen guards would be rushed to my aid. Should I press the button? But just as I hovered my finger above it, I heard the door unlock. Adam? I asked. My hand trembled as I reached out to open the door. With great trepidation, I stepped outside to find Adam standing with his back turned to the door. What are you doing? I asked. But he remained silent, staring off into the distance. I slowly approached him and put a hand on his shoulder. Even then, he didn't seem to notice my presence. Once I removed my hand, I realized it felt wet. I looked down at it to see my palm covered in blood. What the? I mumbled as I walked around to face Adam. There he stood, his throat slit and blood running down his chest, based solely on the puddle growing on the floor. I knew he'd lost an amount significant enough to kill him. Despite that fact, his face showed no sign of distress, or any kind of emotion for that matter. He just stared ahead, his body not accepting that it was supposed to be dead. I saw him, Adam said in a broken voice, one that should have been impossible considering how deep his throat had been severed. Not knowing what else to do, I pushed the emergency button to alert the rest of the staff before I futilely tried to stop the bleeding. It felt odd to try to save a man still standing, unfazed by his rapidly approaching demise, and I knew from experience that by the time any meaningful help would arrive, Adam would be dead. Only when I heard the footsteps of rapidly approaching guards did Adam fall limp onto the ground. Still, I tried to save him. He's gone, one of the guards said, as I held onto Adam. The bleeding had long since stopped, with his heart unable to effectively push it out. I let him go, my hands trembling. I could do little but stand and stare at the dripping blood as I tried to comprehend what had just happened. Dr. Dietrich, one of them asked, trying to break me free from my trance. I only responded when one of them touched me on my shoulder. The entire crew, doctors, nurses, and guards had rushed in, and I barely even noticed. Come on, let's get you out of here, a somber voice said. It was Martin Wagner, head of security. He looked pale as a sheet, as shocked as myself, but despite the fact, he didn't seem surprised. I don't understand, I whispered. There was no one else here. Leon, Martin begged. I turned to him, wondering why he wasn't panicked. He seemed so understanding of the situation, as if it been inevitable from the start. Did you know this was going to happen? I asked. He didn't dare look me in the eyes. It's not what you think, he began. They never should have called you in. Why didn't you warn Adam? I asked. And that is where it ends. So that is part one. I read this and I knew that this was something that I had to share with you guys. Insane. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And I will see you guys for part 2. So definitely make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to enter the giveaway. Until next time, I love you guys. Bye.